Ravi Malhotra was a devoted husband. Nisha Malhotra was a loyal wife. Karan Suri was a trusted business partner. Together, they built a life that looked flawless from the outside. But behind the luxury and smiles hid a dark secret, one that would unravel in betrayal, poison, and a double murder that shocked an entire city. This is not just a story of an affair. It's the story of how love, greed, and deception destroyed everything. Ravi Malhotra was a self-made entrepreneur in Pune, known for his thriving chain of luxury furniture stores. At just 38, he had achieved what many only dreamed of: financial stability, social status, and a seemingly happy family. He lived with his wife Nisha and their 8-year-old son Arav in a spacious bungalow in Corgaon Park, one of the city's most upscale neighborhoods. Neighbors admired their picture-perfect life. Ravi drove a BMW, Nisha hosted elegant brunches, and Arav attended one of the best private schools in the city. To anyone watching from the outside, theirs was the definition of success. Ravi's business had grown rapidly over the past decade, thanks in large part to his business partner and closest friend, Karan Suri. They had met during college and built their company from the ground up, working late nights and investing everything they had into their first showroom. Karan, with his natural charm and flair for marketing, complemented Ravi's calculated and disciplined approach. Their bond extended beyond business. They were family. Karan was a regular at the Malhotra home, celebrated festivals with them, and was even Arav's godfather. Nisha had once been a promising interior designer. She had given up her career shortly after marriage to focus on raising Arav. Though she occasionally consulted for high-end clients, her main role was that of the graceful, supportive wife. On Instagram, she shared glimpses of her life: lavish dinners, floral arrangements, and soft-focus selfies with motivational captions. She was admired for her elegance and warmth. Everything about their life seemed curated to perfection. But underneath the surface, cracks had begun to form. Behind the smiles and family photos, behind the closed doors of their bungalow, a quiet storm had started brewing, one that would soon spiral out of control and end in bloodshed. The change was subtle at first, almost invisible to anyone not paying close attention. Karan had always been a frequent visitor to the Malhotra home, so no one thought twice when his visits became more regular. Ravi was often away on business, attending trade shows, meeting suppliers, or managing new store launches in Mumbai and Bangalore. During these absences, Karan would drop by more often, sometimes to check on Arav, sometimes under the pretext of discussing business matters with Nisha. It seemed harmless, even thoughtful, but there were small shifts. Nisha, who had once kept her interactions polite and brief, now seemed more relaxed in Karan's presence. Neighbors noticed them sharing long conversations on the terrace in the evenings, sipping wine under the soft garden lights. Her laughter, once reserved and composed, now rang louder during these interactions. She dressed differently too, more carefully, more boldly. What appeared to be friendly camaraderie began to feel like something more. What Nisha and Karan shared was no longer just friendship. Their affair, ignited slowly, soon turned into a burning obsession. They began meeting at high-end hotels under fake names, renting private villas in nearby Lonavala, and exchanging messages on encrypted apps. They used prepaid phones, cleared browser histories, and took every precaution they could think of. To them, the thrill of secrecy only made their bond stronger. But affairs, no matter how carefully hidden, leave behind signs. Ravi began to notice changes in Nisha's mood, moments of distance, flashes of guilt. His son mentioned Karan's presence more often than before. Still, Ravi pushed aside the suspicions, believing in the loyalty of his wife and the brotherhood he shared with Karan. What he didn't realize was that the two people he trusted the most were already planning a life without him. One warm afternoon in early March, something unexpected happened that would change everything. Ravi's trusted driver, Mahesh, was cleaning out the back seat of Karan's car after a long day of meetings. Tucked between the seats, he found a plain white envelope. Curious, he opened it, thinking it might be business-related documents. Inside were printed photographs, grainy, but clear enough to recognize the people in them. One showed Nisha and Karan walking hand in hand along a secluded resort path. Another captured them in an embrace on a hotel balcony. The timestamp indicated it was just a few weeks earlier. Mahesh was torn. He had worked for the Malhotra family for nearly 10 years, and was loyal to Ravi. After a sleepless night, he quietly handed over the envelope the next morning. Ravi looked through the photos in stunned silence. His hands trembled, but he said nothing. There was no outburst, no confrontation, just a blank stare that lasted longer than it should have. Instead of reacting impulsively, Ravi chose to investigate further. He reached out to a private detective agency in Mumbai, one discreet and known for handling high-profile clients. Within days, more details emerged. Nisha and Karan had been meeting in secret for over a year, sometimes traveling to other cities under aliases. What hit Ravi even harder was the discovery that Nisha had transferred 20 Indian rupees locked from their joint account into a lesser-known private bank account registered under a false name Karan had used before. Ravi began connecting the dots, the cold looks, the missed calls, the moments of silence that had begun to creep into his marriage. Everything suddenly made sense. A deep sense of betrayal settled over him. But he kept quiet, knowing that exposing the affair too soon might push them into desperate action. He decided to wait and watch. As Ravi silently gathered evidence, Karan began sensing that something was off. His access to company finances was being slowly restricted. Clients he once handled were now redirected to Ravi. Meetings were held without him. Passwords were changed. Karan realized Ravi was quietly cutting him out, but he didn't know how much Ravi had discovered. Nisha, too, noticed a shift in her husband's behavior. He had become unusually calm, almost distant. The kind of calm that hides something dangerous. It made her anxious. Karan and Nisha began to panic. The dream of a future together, one built on stolen moments and whispered promises, was beginning to fall apart. Nisha begged Karan to act before everything slipped away. The money, the company, the life they had imagined would be gone if Ravi exposed them. They couldn't afford to wait any longer. Karan proposed a plan. It was drastic, but to them, it felt necessary. If Ravi were gone, everything would be theirs, his share in the company, the family wealth, even custody of Arav if they played their cards right. They discussed methods, alibis, and how to make it all look like a tragic accident. Nisha hesitated at first, but her desperation overcame her fear. She had already crossed too many lines. Ravi, meanwhile, was setting a trap. He invited Karan and Nisha to a private dinner at their farmhouse on the outskirts of Pune. He told them it was a peace offering, a chance to reconnect and clear the air. Suspicious but curious, they agreed. What Karan and Nisha didn't know was that Ravi had installed hidden cameras across the property. He also wrote a letter to his lawyer, explaining everything he knew, sealed and dated in case anything happened to him. He was preparing for the worst. The night at the farmhouse was unnaturally quiet. Ravi had prepared a full dinner, laid out meticulously on the patio under hanging lights. He welcomed Karan and Nisha with a composed smile, masking the storm within. The tension in the air was almost suffocating, but no one said a word about it. They ate in silence, broken occasionally by forced small talk. Ravi observed everything: Karan's restless glances, Nisha's fidgeting, the way they avoided looking at him directly. Around midnight, as dessert was being served, the electricity suddenly went out. The house was surrounded by fields, and power outages weren't uncommon in that area, but this time it felt deliberate. In the darkness, chaos erupted. A crashing sound was heard, followed by hurried footsteps and a muffled struggle. When the lights flickered back a few minutes later, Ravi was lying on the floor of the dining room, stabbed in the chest. Blood pooled around him, his eyes open and lifeless. The cameras were gone. Every device Ravi had installed had been yanked out or destroyed. His phone was shattered, the laptop missing. The only people left at the scene were Karan and Nisha, both shaken but quick to compose themselves. They drove away in silence, later telling the police that Ravi had attacked Karan during an argument, and in self-defense, Karan had retaliated. Nisha supported the story, insisting it had all happened too fast. What they didn't know was that Ravi had taken one extra step. He had configured the camera footage to automatically back up to a secure cloud storage. Although the cameras were destroyed, a partial video had already uploaded earlier in the evening, capturing enough to raise serious doubts. 2 days later, Karan was found dead in his apartment. A single note lay beside him. "She betrayed me too." Karan's death sent shockwaves through the city. Police initially suspected suicide, but the timing raised questions. The note he left behind was short and cryptic, Just 5 words. Asterisk, she betrayed me too. Asterisk, investigators dug deeper, now seeing the farmhouse murder in a completely different light. The partial footage from Ravi's security system had already been retrieved and was being analyzed. Though the clip cut off before the actual murder, it clearly showed a heated argument between Ravi and Karan, with Nisha entering the room moments before the power went out. The expressions, body language, and tension captured on video told a story that words had tried to cover up. Forensics revealed something even more chilling. Traces of poison had been found in Ravi's food. The stab wound wasn't the first attempt. Someone had tried to eliminate him quietly, and when that failed, violence followed. It pointed to premeditation. Investigators questioned Nisha again. Her earlier calm started to break. Discrepancies emerged in her statements. Then came the financial records, showing the 20 Indian rupees lakhs she had moved without Ravi's knowledge. The account Karan used was also linked to a failing offshore investment, one Nisha hadn't known about. As the pressure mounted, Nisha finally confessed. She admitted to the affair, the financial betrayal, and the plan to kill Ravi. But she insisted Karan had turned on her after the murder, planning to run away alone. She claimed she never expected it to end the way it did. Her trial gripped the nation. The media painted her as both manipulative and tragic, a woman caught in her own web of lies. Nisha was sentenced to life in prison. Arav, now orphaned in every sense, was placed in the custody of Ravi's sister in Bangalore. The perfect life had collapsed, leaving behind only loss, betrayal, and unanswered questions.